Broadcasting from the commodity capital of the world, Zurich, Switzerland, this is Insider's Guide to Energy.
Insider's Guide to Energy, ETRM Mini-Series, brought to you by Fidectus, where post-trading matters, and Falls an independent management and consulting boutique, creating impacts for clients and markets.
Hello and welcome to this ETRM Mini-Series. I'm your host, Chris Sass, and with me today is Andre Yeager from Ion Commodities. Andre, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Chris.
I'm really excited about this opportunity to be on this webinar with you today. The webinar is an extension from the ETRM Mini-Series that was taking place. The ETRM Mini-Series was something that took place on Insider's Guide to Energy, where there's about 20 hours of content already done, deep diving into ETRM. And from that, what ended up happening is a number of vendors, I think in the first 13 hours, at least half of the vendors came out and said, hey, you know, we got this ecosystem and we got something taking place, and we want to talk to post-trade processing. In fact, we want to talk to the global energy network, and we want to have native connectivity and API connectivity to this. And they gave that as use cases and examples. So being a part of both Fidectus and the ETRM Mini-Series, I went back and talked to the team and said, you know, it may make sense to do something that shows the value and talks about this to the community of why an ETRM person would care and what the business drivers are and why the stakeholders are driving ETRM to play nicely with the global energy network and post-trade processing and next generation. And that's what we did here. So today we're going to spend about 40 minutes on this call. We are going to walk through and I am going to show you a bit about what's happening. We'll start by talking about what the value is to the business and the stakeholders. It's a tool that's used and we want to talk about that. So when your stakeholders are coming to you as the head of ETRM services or back office, why are they bringing this up? Why is there so much activity and so much going on there? And we'll go through that. We'll then spend time going through a real world demonstration. The reason Ion's on this call is they're a strategic partner with Fidectus. They've got a lot of close, tightly integrated work done, and you're going to see confirmation working end to end. We're going to start in an Endure system with an interface. We're going to go all the way through. We'll go through the Fidectus system, and we'll go to an Allegro system, and you'll see how that all works and how seamlessly that takes place through the demonstrations, and we'll bring it all together at the end of the call. So I talked about the reason why we put the webinar together. But really, what is the value of the connectivity? Why are we doing this? And this may seem self-evident, right? Well, native connectivity tends to be better. It de-risks projects, right? I no longer need to have a connector built by a third party that I need to maintain. When a partner like Ion says, hey, I've got a native interface, and oh, by the way, this same interface is going to get you to all of my users, whether you be on Endure or Allegro or Triple Point, that's a really powerful message, because when it comes to upgrades and things like that, you're just going to inherit that property. And when they're a strategic partner and they have more value there, they can do some unique things that are great just for the users of those platforms. So the connectivity value is very powerful. The second thing that I want to talk about is straight through processing. If I look back to the early days, let's look back all the way back when confirmation settlement, if you read the first confirmation documents, you read the early documents about ESM and along the way, one of the goals in the first or second paragraph of each of these standards documents is, hey, we'd love to get the straight through processing, right? And so along the way, what we've done is we've gone on this digitalization journey, and that journey is helping us, but there were still inconsistencies in the back office. And we said, hey, first we need to get confirmation electronic, and we did that. And then we said, let's do electronic settlement matching, and that's taken place. And now we're that much closer. And when you have that native connectivity, boy, I can get right to that next step. The final thing is the community. Community is an extremely important element that we talk about. From a partner point of view, Ion was an amazing partner for Fidectus to be a strategic partner because of the amount of reach they have. Imagine if you could reach every Endure, every Triple Point user, every Allegro user, and you had all that connectivity out of the ground. That's really powerful. But it's even more powerful than that. Some folks are going to say, well, yeah, but isn't that what interoperability is for? I'm supposed to just interoperate with other systems. So sure. So confirmation should interoperate. So should ESM. We should have interoperability there. But that is just the basic of functionality, right? If you're okay with some of the legacy things that take place as most basic functionality, yeah, go ahead and do that. There are companies along the way, and many of you on this call are probably not in a position yet to be making the move, or you're just making the move and you still have legacy confirmation in place. You might have, looked at some of the older ESM type ways to go, and you're saying, hey, can I talk to them? Absolutely. The standards allow you to do that. Fidectus works very closely with EFET. When you think of standards, you think of Fidectus because we're right there working with them all the time. And what that means is, yeah, I can reach everybody, but it's the baseline functionality. When I start talking about the stakeholders and the value we bring the business, when we start looking at things, the finance elements, and that really move the needle, there's a lot above and beyond the basics that you want to do. And having that community and so many counterparties you can go reach, that's part of the value. And that's where this native connectivity becomes such a powerful statement. So where are we today in the market? It's been an amazing time. So in the European market, what I can say is I'm working with 60 user sessions. We've got interactivity with 60 different companies that we're actively working with. This is a lot of activity. This isn't an island. This isn't some small thing. This is really taking place. Some of the reasons for that, and you're going to see when we move to the demo port of this call, you're going to see how easy it is to onboard. You can see users get onto the platform in under 5 minutes. In fact, in one of the demonstrations, I will show you how to register for the platform and getting on very quickly. There's no hurdles. There's not commercial hurdles. There's not technical hurdles. And folks get on there. And we learned this lesson, right? We saw that in confirmation where there were hurdles, where it didn't work, where you had to have costs, when you had to have integration, you had to have third-party contracts and all that. And it made it really slow. Not everybody accepted. But if you take all those things away, you can see why the momentum is so fast and why this is moving along the way it is. A number of ways to connect is also important. So it's not only that maybe you have a native interface, maybe you're an Endure user, maybe you're an Allegro user and you got native connectivity, great. But what's also important is, are your counterparties able to reach you? Do they have ease of getting there? Can they get emails that gets them there? Do they have other channels of communicating with you through the platform? And do you have a single workflow to them? And we're going to show that. We have a number of ETRM partners. We have accounting partners. We have other partners in the system. You'll see that. We have over 150 trading companies right now in Europe who are receiving documents from the global energy network. That's a huge number. Think about that. Just a couple of years ago, this was early movers. Now it's over 150 companies getting documents on the platform. So things are really moving right along. And the bottom bullet, zero IT change required to participate. Now that may seem far-fetched. You're going to see why that is through the demonstrations. Everything from having OCR and neural networks to maybe just receiving emails and being able to respond through the email channel means that everybody can participate in the plan in using the platform. And that's really important for us. So where is it that Fidectus plays? What is it that we do? I think it makes sense to show a trade life cycle and show where we are in the life cycle. If you look at the little circle diagram on the side, you're going to see where it starts with trade capture. It's going to go into trade nomination. Those are clearly functions that fall within the ETRM workspace. That is not something Fidectus wants to do or chooses to do in the future. That's what our partners do. That's their core competence. They do that really well. And where we come in is just after that point. It starts at trade confirmation. We can handle trade confirmation. So trade confirmation is nothing new. It's been around so long. Some of you still probably use the old EFET.net type stuff. But it really has got the ability to do more and more powerful things. And we're going to show that here in today's call. Then we move on along the trade life cycle and we say, well, what about regulatory reporting? Fidectus really doesn't want to be totally in the regulatory reporting business, but our market said, hey, we'd like to have a single source. We'd like to have a tight integration and coupling to your platform. Could you bring regulatory reporting to us? And we said, sure. Now, the interesting thing is Fidectus, as many of you are in Europe on this call, we started with power and gas emissions and really dominating in Europe, but we also are a global company. And the nice thing about our regulatory reporting solution is it's the same thing that we do here, but we also meet the standards for North America, for Asia, so that we know that we can extend that out. So it's a little bit different spin than maybe people are used to. The other thing that people asked us about regulatory reporting, they said, hey, you know what? We want to have regulatory reporting that isn't shy about giving advice and is willing to help us and step up. And our team that we've gone with and we've partnered to bring this in is willing to do that and really help our customers along the way and advise them along the way. Next, we go to trade and broker settlement, these trilateral kind of settlement deals. And this was really interesting. A couple of years ago, I was sitting with a customer, we were talking to them about that. And they said, I got this pain point with my broker statements. I get them from all different places. It's really hard to manage. Some of it's an email. Suddenly some email comes up and there's some old bills, things that aren't reconciled. And it's been really challenging. We've tried offshoring it. We've tried bringing it in-house, and it's just really not clean. Could you guys help us with this? And we did. We sat down with the top traders, and we got a group of traders together and the largest energy brokerage firm in the world and said, hey, let's go through, let's standardize this, let's tighten this thing up, and let's do it and test it and do that. And we've done that at this point where the broker community accepts it, the user community is excited about it, and our engine supports that. So we're able to bring that type of technology to you. Trade netting, another thing in the cycle. Netting agreements are nothing new. Most folks have bilateral netting agreements in place. They've been doing it a long time, but there was still a lot of manual intervention in a lot of them. And as soon as you digitize the whole post-trade process, it becomes much easier, especially for a bilateral, to just do automated netting. That makes sense. Fidectus has done that even in our prototypes. In fact, we see so much value in it. Some of the intellectual property that we brought to the market was things like multilateral netting. Now, the market's not totally there yet, but all the foundations in place, and that's been available since the early prototypes. And what that does is allows you to compress your cash and do so much more. And these are the kind of tools that are driving folks onto the Fidectus platform. Trade finance, another example of something that's really a differentiator. Imagine not like the trade finance you're used to on the front end, but imagine once the deal's done and you want to do something with your cash flow. So imagine gas prices a year ago in the last year where they're all over the place. You just need to get your books cleared. You want to do something about that. Or what if you wanted to get your money in earlier, out earlier? So there's negative interest rates, perhaps as an example, where you just want to clear your books sooner because you don't want to have the negative interest rate. Our platform allows you to do that today. Today, you can do things like dynamic discounting. I can give you a discount for paying earlier. And then you're going to see moving forward, there's a lot of finance coming down the pipe with our platform. So these are some of the tools people like. And finally, payment and trade payment, going back to that whole life cycle and getting the payment and making sure the hooks and the information to if a payment is received, do I know it? Do I have visibility every step of the way? And these are part of the value of why your stakeholders are probably coming to you and saying, hey, we want to catch up and get up to these kind of platforms as Fidectus. So it's interesting to look at these things. And as a vendor, it's really tempting just to kind of wave around wand and say, hey, this is really cool. You could do all this really amazing things. But the reality is very few of you on this call today are greenfields. I do see a couple. There's a couple of energy startups that doing some trading that are newer companies. But for the most part, everybody's got a legacy infrastructure in place and they need to deal with how to handle that. So getting from point A to point B isn't super easy. I don't just flip a switch and imagine have everything day one. So how do we get there? One of the ways there is the native interfaces. So on the side where I say traders, ETRM, and accounting systems, those are native hooks. These are bilaterally talking in and out. This is the ION that's on the call today. This is Endure. This is saying, hey, can I have that seamless connectivity without the risk and make it work out of the box? Is it easy for me? That's part of it. But that's only part of the equation. Other part of the equation that's important, this is what we learned, what went wrong in the confirmation world, is what are your counterparties capable of doing and what do they do? That's really insignificant because if you're on board, what you really want and what your business stakeholders want is a single workflow to make things simple. And if everyone else is on the other side of the deal looks the same to me, I can have that single workflow. So whether they connect via APIs, because that's what works for them, or they use a neural network and OCR capability to bring the technology in, perhaps they just get an email in and they can respond to the email and use the email as a powerful tool outside of the network. I don't need to even log into the platform because that would be defeat the purpose of having the email. But if I could go do that, that would be powerful. What about file-based? We're going to show you some file-based technologies as well. Imagine you had the legacy EFETNet stuff and you were using it and you still have it. And you said, okay, well, how do I migrate from that to using confirmation on Fidectus? I don't want to get a modern tech stack. I want the value and all the things that it can bring. How do I do that? Well, what if you could take where you would drop a watch folder that maybe goes to Ponton today, drop it into a different folder, have it go off, you do all the value of the modern stack, all the things we're going to show you on this call during the demonstration, and then return box results. And I could basically keep my workflow intact on my side and handle it, except one major difference. Now I can cover the whole market. I don't have to worry about those parties that aren't counterparties on the platform because they can still interact with me and look to me like they're on our platform. That is extremely powerful and extremely motivating. And it's very low risk because I'm using the infrastructure already in place and it just takes place and happens. So those are the kind of tools that we talk about when we do that. Once again, kind of a picture of the ecosystem. You want to talk to everybody, some more than others, have more connectivity and more value, but you want to have that native connectivity wherever possible, and that's important there as well. So I've gone at a whirlwind pace, but I really don't want to spend a lot of time kind of at the slide where what I want to do is spend time looking at the solutions. That to me is the value of what we're doing today. And what we're going to do is we're going to run through a number of different use cases. And the use cases are designed to show you what you can do in each incremental step along the way. So you can see there's basically 3 different high-level use cases we're going to go through. The first one is I'm going to turn this over to Andre. Andre is going to come on board, and he's going to drive this from an ION perspective and show us an end-to-end automated connected use of the platform. So you should see him going out to his Endure platform, setting up a trade, and he'll show you each step of the way which goes, and then we'll see it coming back automatically. And to me, the importance there is to see what happens in a match, what happens in a mismatch, and I'll come on and maybe I'll talk about this thing called a near match as well and show you what we can do along the way. That to me would be a good starting place because it shows you kind of end to end. What many of you are here from is, hey, how does ION work with you guys? Then what I want to do is I want to break it down a little bit and say, okay, go back to what I was saying before. What I really want to make sure is that the world works for everybody. So imagine now I'm still Andre, because Andre is going to be doing all the stuff from his point of view, from Endure, from a native connectivity, and I want to send some more files out. But now imagine I'm a different counterparty. Imagine I'm a counterparty, let's call it an Allegro counterparty that isn't integrated. Let's say that I'm out there and I still need to be able to respond. So maybe I want to upload files, maybe I want to log into the platform and respond, but I have different ways of connecting because I'm at a different part of my journey, moving down to the fully automated path. Then finally, imagine Andre is wanting to talk to somebody who is just not registered to the platform, isn't using confirmations today, and he wants to send a file off. So I'll have him put some stuff into the system, and we'll see how that non-registered counterparty can act and interact with the platform without having to sign up for the platform, and then see how that responds back to someone like Andre on the other end, how that natively flows through. So that's the journey we're going to go on for about the next 20 minutes here and walk through the demonstrations. So let's go ahead and switch gears. And Andre, do you want to walk through your use case?
Yes, also erstmal welcome also from my side. Andre Jäger, as Chris introduced, work on the iron commodities side. The automated cases was Allegro, of course. I think you're working with a different CTRM for the non-automated case. So from a trade scenario perspective, we basically will look at the full kind of straight-through processing. We will look at 2 different trade types. One where we kind of get to a full matched, and then the second part we will also showcase in that same scenario is kind of a second trade where we actually identify a mismatch and kind of show how the status workflows automatically from the CTRM side to the Fidectus side. And we actually will look at both sides from the on the Fidectus screens. So one representing the instance that's basically connected to the CTRM that we're looking at. And then, of course, we also see for demo purposes kind of what is viewed by the counterparty itself. So this is just kind of an initial desktop, couple of typical endo screens where you would basically kind of utilize the showcase, start with a trade listing. So booked already a couple of trades. Then I have trade capture, in this case as a physical power trade. Then I have trade capture for a swap trade. Those are 2 examples I will utilize. I showcase some reference data. So we will utilize actually that Allegro 11 counterparty where I have everything set up for automatic confirmation matching. And then we have a back office screen where I basically can follow the whole confirmation workflow along the way. In addition to that Endo desktop, we will have 2 Fidectus views. The top view representing that directly connected one to that OpenLink Endo instance. So you see that Endo user. And the bottom one with the black highlight is actually our counterparty. We're trading with Allegro, also fully automated. So this is basically the counterparty view in this particular case. So we start with deal capture. We start actually with a swap. So I use a template. Manual debooking could be also something that comes in via interface. So just put in the related data reference. I buy 4,000 therms in that particular case, Endo counterparty, and that Allegro 11 counterparty, delivery in April, fixed price, and then a floating as well as the spread. So I booked it directly to validate it, to kind of get that confirmation process going. So you see the deal number is like 61 at the end. So this is the deal that we will follow through the trade lifecycle. So let's go now to the back office screen and basically update my confirmation screen. So we see that here. So I update. And two things are happening on parallel. So I see for that new trade that the status is issued, which basically means we generated the message. And I also see at the same time, since it was automatically transferred to Fidectus, that we have that particular trade as unmatched. I see it as outgoing on the Endor side and incoming on that counterparty Allegro side. So let's book another trade. As I said, we want, and this is the one that we want to match completely. And now we also create an example for a mismatch. So in this case, it's a physical power trade. I buy 25 megawatts base load, put a price in, similar kind of parties in the unit as well as the Allegro counterparty, and again, process that to the status of validated. So this is the next deal ID with the 6.2 hinten. So we go again to our back office screen, refresh in this particular case, and I see now the first one just kind of came out with the status of issued. And I already see for the prior one with the 61 ID that it shows acknowledged, which basically means everything okay. We transferred to the Fidectus box and was consumed successfully. So now I see also the second trade. Let's drill down into both trades to just see the related details. So first the commodity swap. So we see the 4,000 therm. So all the related kind of effort-defined standards are transferred. And then let's look also at the physical power trade. So similar, I have all the details, the contact, receiver, sender, the volume, the value. So all the details were transferred. And you see again from the arrows, that's the two ones that are kind of coming from our side in this particular case, whereas on the Allegro side, I see them as incoming. And then also if I refresh, I see now for the second one, I see also that it's kind of in the status of acknowledged. Again, no communication issue between the two systems. So what we have to do now on the, and I don't show that, so now in the process on the Allegro side, both trades will be booked, and then automatically the messages will be sent to Fidectus to kind of automate the process of matching or mismatching in this particular case. So that's happening currently in the background. So let's give it a second. And I see that two messages came in. So I see in that particular case, if I look at the bottom of that Allegro screen, I see two incoming messages. The commodity swap one, I see already in a matched status. So as I mentioned, want to show if we have kind of really a match between the two contracts. So it came in, the system determined, oh, that's all exactly the same, and gave me the match status. So I have the possibility to drill down into it on the Fidectus side, see the outgoing message, the incoming message, and see that kind of all the underlying details are exactly the same. The other thing what we see, I see two other messages in status unmatched, and that basically means we built in a slight difference, and that's why we see both in unmatched. And also I refreshed on the other side where we basically see that the first contract is already matched. So what's now happening in the background is a process that looks at kind of contracts within our agreed kind of tolerances. Do we have something that we would consider as a close match or a mismatch? And in this particular case, we see that the process actually found those two messages and kind of identified them as like, oh, there's close enough. And if you see here as the outgoing, incoming, you see actually most of the stuff is correct. No, the total contract value, there's a slight difference for whatever reasons. So now I can really engage with my counterparty and kind of talk about that particular case. And then as I refresh on the CTRM side, I again see that corresponding status. Also the first one matched, the second one basically in the mismatched status. So that could be then the trigger for somebody on the back office side to really kind of start that exception handling, get into communication with the particular client to kind of investigate. As Chris mentioned, I think it's key for us to kind of provide integration across all our CTMs. We believe there's a lot of value in kind of enabling it for the community. I think confirmation matching is just the first step. And the obvious step, I think I get even more excited to think about what you can do on the settlement matching side from a credit perspective, more frequent settlements, et cetera, but big focus for us to kind of standardize and automate that integration because we see a lot of benefit by providing those integrations natively. Back to you, Chris.
Well, thank you so much for that. I think what makes sense to do is to talk a little bit about what you talked about in this use case as well, is you showed a match along the way, right? And interestingly enough, it's an interesting state of being because, you know, what is the mismatch that we saw? I've said match before, but I meant the mismatch. And what does that mean? Because, you know, I get an unmatched state, but what is a mismatch? So let's take a look into that and what that means. Because, you know, from Fidectus' point of view, I can start looking at things before. So as you can see, if I look at my statement here, you can see where I don't have it. But what if I could set up some counterparty agreement? And what if I could go through and say, hey, you know what? Let's create a state. Let's go out here. Let's go ahead and create a counterparty agreement right now. So I'm going to do that. So let's pick up and call it demo here. I'm going to put in, you know, the account that I want to make it to. So I'll use the announcement and I'll pick the transaction, the product types I want. I'll go to the commodities and let's give it a surety or a set of agreement and say, okay, let's say 95% here. Okay, so 95% is surety. If these things happen, let's go ahead and create a mismatch. And I really set this agreement thing up. And then what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and save this agreement. And when I save the agreement, what I'm going to do is create a workflow because this is bilateral. And what will happen is I click save right now, and I'm going to notify the other party on this and say, hey, you know, what I want to do is if these things are 95% assured, let's go ahead and create this mismatch state because I want to be able to really quickly navigate that. And once that takes place, what will happen is once they've agreed to it, you can see here's one that's already been agreed to. It goes to an active state. And that's kind of cool because now I got this new bit of kind of working it, just a more efficient workflow where I can say, okay, I got this mismatch. I'm 95% sure you and I agree those are the terms. It's going to be there. Now, that works a lot of the time if I want to go do this bilateral and have this kind of agreement in place, this mismatch agreement statement. But there's going to be times perhaps where that isn't there. So what do I do today is I use something called a near match, right? So what is a near match? Is here you can see about stuff coming inbound. You can see the arrow directions. I got all these unmatched documents here. And what I really want to do is figure out how I could apply that to something. So what I need to do is upload a document. I've got one already prepared here. And I'm going to put my document up there and get it into the system. So I click upload. You see it's green, no notifications. Everything went well. I'll let this thing refresh here. It should pop up here. Oh, there it is right on the top. You can see the arrow. And now I've got a document there saying, okay, here's my outgoing document. And there's a bunch of incoming documents. But how do I go ahead and make sure these things align? So let's go dive into the document. I think is the way I'd want to do this. So let's go look at a statement here, the document. And when it comes up, you'll see it. And I go and turn on this thing called near match. And as soon as I did that, you can see where the mouse is. I've got one of 4 choices showing. And it's saying, hey, these things look pretty darn close to me. And if you look down here, you can see where the attributes are just slightly different. I got an 10 and 11, you know, 380, 89, 390 at juxtaposed numbers. And you can see that it's giving me recommendations and making my job easier because it's saying, hey, whereas before I have that matching agreement, in this case, what I'm saying is just show me stuff that is close enough for me to go through and determine if this thing is a near match or not. And I can go work through all these different statements. Now, once I do that, you can see right now what I'm going to do is I text through and I have a channel of communication saying, hey, I think this is what we've got. Here's what I want to do. I hit send. I get this in immutable audit trail, this communication channel going on, and it goes out to the other side. And the other side can then take it and respond to me and respond back to what they've seen, right? So the power really is of this near match capability is now I go from a broad stroke of things and I really can drill it down to say, okay, let's smartly use my time and go into where we're at. All right. So what I did in the near match is really wanted to go through and show you the capabilities, right? So I can set up a matching agreement, great, really powerful. I can go through and then set up near match, and I just really are fine tuning what I can do, and this all automatically will happen. In this situation, what I want to do is I want to take you to a different use case. And in this use case, what makes sense to me to show you is I've got Andre sitting out there, and Andre's got his native interface. And then I've got someone on the other side who isn't. I've got another system that isn't integrated. And remember I said I talked about the value in the beginning of my presentation saying, look, this is really important for us that not only does Andre have a good user experience, but so does the other side. And from Andre's point of view, it all should look the same. So in this time, I'm going to have Andre send me a couple of documents in. They're going to come inbound. And then I'm going to do two things with it. One, I'm going to create an XML file. And in that XML file, I'm going to respond back using the platform. I'm going to upload the file, and we're going to see each of the steps there of what we can do to make it change status. Then what I'll do is I will do the same, and I'll go through and I'll use the platform to accept and do my match that way. All right, so now what we've got is we've got documents in place. You can see the documents there. Andre is going to go ahead, and I'm going to ask him to send me those couple documents. And the ability then for me to do is what they'll do is they'll show up here in the screen. I'll refresh my screen, or I can just wait and it will pop up. And what we'll see is the documents coming in, and you can see because there'll be the direction of what they come in and what not. I can then take from my document view and I'll drill into them and start showing you where it's at. Now I've prearranged going there, and you can see right now as I'm showing you that I'm on the system. I just gave you a different system name. That's all down at the bottom there. And let's go ahead and work towards getting these documents up here. Give me 1 second here. And Andre, you're sending them in. Okay. And you can see the first document pop in. See if I get the second one to go through here. Just give it a second to come in. Yeah. And I got my forward showing up. I got my document view that I can go dive into the specific document ID. And let's see if I get the other one to come through. Okay, and he sent me a forward swap as well. Okay, so now I've got my two documents in place. And now what do we want to do with it? So let's take this forward and let's dive into it. Okay. And as you can see in human readable form, I have the document come up and I have my information in there. You can see I'm at 255, about 18,000 megawatt hour, and just under 5 million at 4.6459 in there. So these are the terms I want to do, and I want to create a mismatched document. So I'm going to switch gears here and open up the XML file that I created, and you can basically see the same thing in XML. You can see the fields that we have there. You got the 255 for the price. We're going to add 50 cents. Seems good. We'll do that. Now what that's done is my total contract value has changed 9,000. So now we have two different things. So when I go back to the other view, I can show you, you can compare and contrast. You'll see what I just did. So it should not match at this point, right? I should have slightly different view. So let's look at the document here originally. And you can see it's going to be the 255.00, just double checking the math, the 18,000. Okay, so clearly different values from each user's viewpoint of where we're at. Now what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to take this XML document with my changes in it. And from my side, I'm just going to log into the system here, and I'm going to use the upload functionality and put this document up into the system. And so let's go over here. Let's go click to upload. Pick my document that I just saved, hit upload. Now you'll see if it goes well, I'll get a green box, which it does. And I can go to my document view, and here we go. So now I've got my document. It's not matched. It's up in the system. All right. And now I can see from my document point of view where the possible challenges are. And you can see that one of the problems is the amount difference there. And if I go in the time interval price, and I can see the difference in the time interval price, and you can see that I got that not matching, right? So let's go back over. All right. So now the next step I can do is, what if I go into this document that I got? So let's go to the forward swap, take a look at that. And so we can go through, we can see all the terms on that. Now, if I go to the action buttons, what I can do is I can manually go through and use the platform. Rather than creating a document, I don't need to know any XML or anything. I can click accept. And suddenly what I've done is I've accepted that, and you can see the match pop up. It goes up on my screen. It will show up on the other side as well. And you see it. Now, notice there's 2 documents there this time because it created the second document for me. That's really powerful. I didn't have to do anything. All I did is use the action button. But here, you can see it created this document and sent it back for me, and I have the document all in place. So it's a really powerful tool to help me with those kind of situations. All right. So let's go ahead and go forward here. Let's go to the third use case. What can we do now? So in the third use case, what I want to show is I'd like to show you what happens when someone's not registered to the platform. This is really significant because not everybody uses confirmation today. And in this situation, we're going to have trades created on Andre's side. Yet again, he'll send me the trades again. And what I want to show you is the flow of what happens when they don't, right? So the indoor user sends it, it goes to the non-user via email, and what channels and what responsibility or response those persons can make, and how does it look to both sides? So let's go ahead and go forward here. So here's what we've got taking place. So we got my document view again. This is a good place to start. I'm going to have my documents come in from the outside. And what's important here is I need certain information. So Andre's going to send me the information. And in the information he's going to send me is some data about the user. I need a little bit of information. In this case, what I need is to understand who I'm sending it to. I want their static information in there. So that's going to come on the inbound document from the Endure system to me. And when I have that, what I can do, especially if I have the email, if I have an email address, I can then craft an email and craft the document and send it off via email. So that's what I intend to show us first. We'll go through that and show it in that situation. So I've got that. Endure's got kind of the augmented data set. It allows me to do that. What we'll then do is I'll send and show you what happens if you don't have that capability to do that. If I can't give you the enriched data on the front end, how do I add the data along the way so that I can still take advantage of this functionality no matter what? I want as much flexibility as possible. So let's go ahead and get the documents coming in. I'm going to go ahead and have that take place and get documents coming in from the Endure system. I'll get Andre to send me some documents here. And when that happens, let's go ahead and take a look at the document and see what the contact information that he's got coming from his system. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, you open it up. And what I want you to look at on the confirmation view is the receiver and sender information, right? That's the augmented data. That's the value that's going to allow me to do the really interesting things here. So now you can see I'm going to send it to this demo email account address, and you can see where it goes. So let's go ahead. And of course, I have the deal terms and what's going on, but let's open the email up and look what happens. So now on the side, what I receive is an email. It came into my inbox, and it's got a few things. It's got who it's from. It's got the sender receiver information. It's got a little bit of a recap of what the deal information is. So I know what I'm getting and where it's at. And that's a really powerful little tool, and it tells me where we're at. Now on the top left, you can see there's a PDF file of the document. So I'm going to have my confirmation via PDF. Once again, I can open it and use this document and look at the document for wherever I'm at my process. And I also get an XML file as well. And the XML is really powerful because I could take that XML and actually process it on another system because it's standards compliant XML. It's the basic stuff that we have. So it's really interesting. I've got these things. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to respond. I'm going to hit reply. And what I can do is I can either use the well-defined dispute process and say, hey, let's type in, let's send you a message back, right? So if you remembered when we were in the platform before, I have a channel of communication or a text window. This time I've sent someone that's not registered to the platform an email. They got the email and they're saying, okay, let's look at this. Let's put some text in here. And then once I've done that, I hit send. Now this is pretty cool because now what's happened is I've gone from out of channel. I've sent it back to the person using the platform. And as this refreshes, give it a second here, what you'll see is this is going to come up in the chat window here on the platform. So now on the platform side, it looks like you're just there like any other user. And I can then take and respond back and respond to this text, and I can type text into the window. And when I do that, I can add the comment here. And when I put comments in and hit send, it's going to go back out and go via email. So I type in my message here, right? Hit the send button, give it a second here. Let's go back to the email view. And we'll go to my email view here, and what you should see in my inbox, if it hasn't come yet, will come soon. There we go, is I have an inbound message. Now, the other thing that's really cool here is I can't just assume that it's your specific email box. This may be a general email box. So what I want to do is append the entire thread there so that if someone else in this group email wants to respond, they don't have to go digging and ferreting around for all the information. You have the whole thread there, and we know who sent what, and we know what's going on there. So that's a pretty powerful thing to do. But I can do more than that, right? So I can look at my settlement, and I could say, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm just going to confirm. Maybe I like this confirm. And so it's just securely done. You can only do it from the email that this got this from. But what I can now do is take that. I use capital letters, use the format here. And what I'm doing is I'm going to hit confirm, and I'm going to hit send. This is really cool. But I, as an email user, also need to know what took place. And so what should happen here, hopefully it will here, is I should get an email back in giving me notification that what took place. So I did, oh, there we go. And what happened is I got my confirmation email back saying, hey, guess what? You matched. You see where I got that. So I did an action, sent it off, and I got this communication channel in place. Now let's go back to the part that Andre's on. Let's go back to the platform and see what happens. And you can see that the confirm went through there. You can now see the green window that we have the match. And it was a really powerful step to get there. So we've gone from someone that had nothing to do with confirmation, totally off the platform, and was able to do a confirmation with them all day long. And it was a very good experience for both sides. We had a single workflow on our side, and on their side, they were able to kind of just go along and do what they were doing without having to do much along the way. That's a pretty powerful thing that they could do. You could also go, and we could probably also go in and do things in the platform. So let's go through and see if we didn't have all the information. So let's go through and say, okay, if I didn't have all the information to send over, my system isn't capable of it. Let's use my burn commodities example. Let's grab that EIC code that I've got, and let's do this. And we're going to create private static data in here for a user. I'm going to map it to the EIC code. So let's go ahead and pop that in. Let's give some contact information and a little bit about who the account is. And let's have the details so we can do an email. So first I need an email that I'm going to send this to. And really what I'm doing is I'm just doing this a la carte here. But this way I can use the platform to automate it. So what kind of deal am I going to do? What products do I want to work with? Okay, let's go to all the commodity types, who I'm going to send this to, and let's give them a phone number, and let's save this. So I'm going to second to get caught up here. Great. Okay, so now I've got all this data for enriching to do. So now I can take the sample that I had before, go back over to another user. 1 second, there we go. Go to the documents view, pick my doc. Okay. 1 second. There we go. There's my document coming in. And here what you now see is you can see that we populated the data, right? So I had the receiver info. All I did is I took the EIC code, had it sent in and said, oh, I know who that could be. And then I can populate the data. Once again, I get the email just like we did before, really powerful. So now I have it. It went to the right place with the data I put in place. I still have my PDF file. That's all created for me with the right data in place. It's really there. Same with my XML file. But let's solve this one a little bit differently this time. Let's go ahead and click on the green button. And what's it going to do is it's going to take me to register to the platform. And now what I can do is, and you can see the email's grayed out because it can only work from someone that I sent it to. It's secure. Let's create a username. Let's create a user account. And I'll use someone else so they already have an account. Create the password. Once I've kind of go through this minutia here, I can then agree to the terms and conditions, the data processing agreement, and I can move forward. Now, one of the things you won't see is there's no commercial agreement needed, right? I'm on the other side of this. There shouldn't be a hurdle to go on and use the platform. So all I'm doing is signing up, just like anyone that got it. So now I can take my new account I created. Let me go ahead and log into my account here. And when I log into my account, what we're going to see is we're going to see a view of the platform and be able to use the platform. Like I said, no commercial agreement. I just agreed to the terms of use. And there's my documents coming up. And in the documents, there we go. What we can see right there, let's go to my documents. All right. And here we go. I got my unmatched document. You can see all the information just like I had it before. I can go to the action buttons. And now what I could do is accept this right on the platform. Here we go. And you can see we got my matched and we can see where it all went. And I'm just like a user. So we can add text like we did out of the channel before, but now I'm in the platform just like everyone else. And I can do the same thing that I did before. Very powerful. And it really just depends where we are on the journey as to what we want to be able to do and show along the way. But what we've done is we've shown you, someone that's totally unrelated connected into the platform. All right. And that's about where I'm going to end on that element. Okay, let me see if there's a question here. I can't see the question, so give me just a second. Yeah, so I have a question. Can you edit and send the XML file? So you can upload the XML file. You can attach and send files in if that's what you'd like to do. That's not a problem as well. You can register to the platform and change things. Sounds like I'm getting a feedback loop. But yes, you can edit XML and do it. So you saw the XML that I uploaded there, and I can take it from the one that was sent to me and use that. And that's the only question I see. So I want to bring it all together for you, what we've seen today. What I've taken you through and what Andre took you through was end-to-end connectivity on the confirmation front. We focused on ECM and we showed it to you. Like Andre did a demonstration. He started for you on an Endure system. He took it through. He did transactions through his interface. It went automatically through the Fidectus system all the way out to the Allegro system. The Allegro system then was able to respond automatically going back through, or native connectivity, as we'd say, back to the Endure system. Then what we did is we showed you the incremental changes along the way. So saying, hey, from Andre's point of view, it's always the same. He creates his deals, he uses his interfaces and does all that stuff. It's what happens on the other side is where the magic is. And the magic was, hey, can I incrementally be there? Can I be fully there? Can I use OCR? What are the tools I want to use to get there? And then finally, we stopped with someone that has absolutely nothing to do with the confirmation world today. And we sent them an email and let them adjust and use the platform. And this fixes a lot of the problems with the legacy system, because now I can have a single workflow no matter where anybody is and make it very convenient and easy to get onto the platform. We bring this all together. I really tried to get this demo to be about showing you what you could do with the native interfaces. There's a lot more the platforms can do. There's a lot more we can do with Ion. There's more that Fidectus can do alone. What I'd encourage you to do is reach out to us directly and we can have a targeted demonstration. We can demonstrate with Ion. We can demonstrate the Fidectus interface. But from what I wanted to show you today, that's the process I brought you through. Andre, do you have any final thoughts you want to share with the audience today?
Nothing specific, Chris, except for thanking everybody for joining and looking forward to some further discussion. I think there are definitely exciting times. As Chris said, happy to do a more detailed demo, how we organize TRPs and the more complex cases. And then looking forward with our clients working together on electronic settlement matching and getting that to kind of an automated state in the community.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining. Andre, thank you and Ion for being such a great partner and for bringing this demo to life today. Thank you to our audience for joining, and we look forward to speaking to you as soon. And if you haven't caught, there's more content coming out on the ETRM Mini-Series. We hope you can catch that and do set up a direct demonstration with us. We're happy to do it individually with you as well. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.